What is going on, all of my guys, gals, non-binary pals? Welcome to my Alpha Clash fam and Alpha Clash fans. Thank you for joining me. My name is Weave. Welcome back to the channel. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, the heck, this dude just put out a video like 2 days ago. And I did. If you haven't checked that out, you should go check it out. It is an unrivaled box opening video where I also show off some of my framed cards. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll see if you go watch that video. It's a pretty good one, so I recommend you go watch it. Dude, boy, get that out of here. You might be wondering, why am I doing a video today? Well, this is not a drill. This is not an alarm. Alpha Clash Set 4 has been announced, and it is called Genesis Returns. So today, Rising Empire Studios did an official announcement announcing Set 4, and they put out a little article with it. So we're going to go through this article together, break it down, do some speculation. That's what I'm really excited for. Set 4 announcement, Genesis Returns. And then we have the set art here, Genesis Returns, the logo with this cool axe. I'm guessing this is probably what's going to go on the side of the booster box from the looks of it. Rising Empire Studios is excited to announce our newest set, Genesis Returns, releasing worldwide November 8th. Pre-orders for distributors are opening next week, and as we've learned from our previous sets, once these order sheets go out, product images will begin being spoiled shortly after, so we're here to tell you first. Genesis Returns features the arrival of Genesis, a bitter rival to Clarity and a threat to all who oppose him. He made his first brief appearance in the Awakening novel. Now he's entering the Clash ground and here to shake up your tabletop. This set features 7 new contenders, 5 iconic rares, 2 legendaries, 1 alpha rare, and much, much more. With over 170 new cards to acquire, supporters of the Alpha Clash TCG will enjoy playing and collecting both new and familiar characters, and will not want to miss out on this amazing set. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on. One thing that I found interesting is these lines here where it says, Genesis is a bitter rival of Clarity. And down here it says, supporters of Alpha Clash TCG will enjoy playing and collecting both new and familiar characters. Which leads me to believe we are getting a new Clarity in this set. Clearly we're getting Genesis. We scroll down, we see this art here. Here's Genesis, Clarity's bitter rival, as we've had described. He's clearly getting his own contender card. So I can only presume we're going to get a new Clarity to go head-to-head with him. See here in the art, he has his axe. I'm predicting this is going to be a contender weapon, some sort of card that you can attach. It's going to give him some sort of buff while swinging. So I'm wondering if we're going to get a new Clarity in this set, she's probably going to be white, of white resource cost. I mean, obviously they could do whatever they want. She could be whatever color, but that's just my presumption. And so looking at Genesis here, from his aesthetic and the look of him, and also with him being a rival of Clarity, he kind of has a white resource vibe to him, doesn't he? But I could also see him being a black resource character, to be the sort of antithesis, the villain to the white resource Clarity character. You know what I'm saying? And you will see later in this set announcement, but we do get another black-white contender announced that is not Clarity or Genesis, which makes me wonder if there's going to be multiple black and white contenders in this set. Every set thus far, we've had 5 contenders, 1 of each of the colors, and then we've had a Clash kit with 2 separate contenders that don't fit into those 5 colors. Except for set 1, where we just had the 5 contenders and 2 of them made up the Clash kit, but that's its own thing. So I wonder if those 7 are 5 from the set, and then 2 from the new Clash kit. Because as you'll see later in this announcement, we do get a new Clash kit spoiled, and that's one of the things I'm most excited about. Or if there is going to be 7 contenders in this new set, because like I said, later in the announcement, we do have a black and white contender spoiled that is neither Clarity nor Genesis, so I wonder if we are going to have 7 contenders in this set, and then 2 in the Clash kit. That would be 9 contenders in this set. Wow, that would be a lot. That would be quite a lot. I don't 100% know how I feel about that. So again, here's Genesis's art. He's looking really cool. I'm excited to see what this dude's gonna come out and do. Let's keep scrolling down. Stay tuned for the upcoming spoiler season of Genesis Returns in the coming months. We can't wait to share all the details for this set. You won't believe what's coming. And then my favorite part of this announcement, the new Set 4 Clash kit. We have Pestilence versus War. We're getting a new Pestilence and a new War. This is very exciting. Now, because of the layout of the front of the Clash kit, we can't quite see all of their text, but there's enough of it there we can kind of sort of start to make it out. So let's get in there and speculate a little bit. We're going to start with Pestilence here. If you watch the channel, you know I'm a Pestilence fan, so I'm very excited to see what this guy's all about. This art's sick, by the way. He looks nasty, looks gross, looks taunting, scary. And hey, my man got the Defiler's Vial here. We're going to talk about that in a second. And I'm going to do some speculating on the text here. We obviously can't see all of it, so I'm going to try to fill in the blanks. I could be wrong about what it says, but I think I can get most of it. So, Pestilence Toxic Presence. Once per turn, during your primary phase, you may move any number of toxic counters from a permanent you control to target, and I'm guessing this says Clash card. There's probably enough space to say Clash card here. So yeah, once per turn during your primary phase, you can just move any number of toxic counters from a permanent you control to a target Clash card. Now, if you read the rules, a permanent is just any card that can be played to or sits on the board. So a permanent could be considered your contender, a Clash card, a Clash ground, an accessory, anything that just sits on the field like that, right? So this next line down here. Once per turn, whenever 2 or more toxic counters are put on a Clash card you don't control, target player discards 1 card. Now this is a line I'm very excited about. So what that looks like is if you have 2 toxic counters on a Clash card that you control, you can just use your contender ability once per turn to just move those 2 over to a Clash card that you don't control, and then target player discards a card. Now something I think that's interesting about the wording of this card, the way this is written, it leads me to believe that the controller of the Clash card that you move 2 or more toxic counters to does not have to be the same opponent that discards the card. Because I know Rising Empire Studios is ultimately getting Alpha Clash into a multiplayer mode where there can be more than one opponent, and so the way this is written leads me to believe that you can move 2 or more toxic counters onto a Clash card controlled by player B and then select player C as your target to discard the card. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments if I am, because I know you guys will let me know if I'm wrong. So now I want to look at this low health threshold ability down here. We can tell it's the second ability. We can see the little star down here. And I totally just skipped over it. We can see the 2 up here. So Pestilence is either going to have 20 or 25 health, probably 25 health. So it reads, non-Pestilence Clash cards you don't control with 1 or more toxic counters lose all abilities. That's crazy. I'm super excited for that. So yeah, basically you would use your first ability during your turn to move a toxic counter from a permanent you control, like an accessory or Clash card, over to a Clash card that you don't control. And then once you're under, assuming he has 25 health, once you're under 10 health, anything your opponent controls with a toxic counter on it just loses all abilities. That's really cool. I'm guessing losing all abilities just means you treat the text box as blank, like it still has its, attack and defense and all of those stats, but just anything else that would be written on it is just gone, ignored. That really plays into the Pestilence sort of like control archetype that I really love with the OG Pestilence. You're just constantly messing with your opponent's card. And I'm going to speculate a little bit right now because we've seen toxic counters a little bit, but very briefly. So this is the first time we've had the ability to move the toxic counters from cards that we control onto other cards. So I'm hoping we maybe get some abilities that are similar to Lynn with her bounty counters, where you get rewarded for putting bounty counters onto Clash cards you don't control and then defeating them. So maybe there will be cards where, trigger, enter, Clash cards you don't control with a toxic counter on them, gain -1/-1 or something like that. Or, a Clash ground that says whenever you defeat something with a toxic counter on it, draw 1. Or I'm hoping we get some abilities on these cards that interact with those toxic counters outside of his just low health threshold ability. Because if we look at the Clash kits we've gotten in the past, they've each had 4 original cards and then a deck made up of cards that have already been released in previous sets or in the current set. I'm hoping that in the new set or in this Clash kit specifically, we get some Pestilence cards that allow us to generate toxic counters on the Clash cards, because I really want to move them around. Because like I said, there's only 2 cards that we have thus far that reference toxic counters. So you know what, let's actually go ahead and look at those right now. So the first card that we have that mentions toxic counters is from set 2, Clash Grounds. It is an accessory. It's called Infectious Presence. It reads, trigger, enter, put 3 toxic counters on this card. At the start of your turn, remove 1 toxic counter from this card. Then, if it has no toxic counters on it, send it to Oblivion. So functionally, the toxic counters don't do anything on this card. They just tick down over a couple turns to keep the card on board until it blows itself up. And while it's online, the bottom text here is active. It says non-Harbinger Clash cards get -2 attack, -0 defense. So basically, it's an accessory that sits out there. Anything that's not a Harbinger gets its attack sort of deflated, and then after 3 turns or whatever, it blows itself up. But like I said, the toxic counters don't really do anything on this card. So this is something that with the new Pestilence, you can play it out and immediately just move those toxic counters onto something to get some other beneficial effects. So this next one, I'm actually way more excited to run in the new Pestilence. This seems like it's going to be crazy in that deck. And this is a card I always thought was cool. Go back and watch my Clash Grounds unboxing video. I said it was cool in that video. So this card is the Defiler's Vial. It is an accessory, also like Infectious Presence. It is from Clash Grounds, the second set. However, this one only costs 1 resource. The card reads, trigger, enter, put 1 toxic counter on this card. Once per turn during your primary phase, you may engage this card. If you do, put 1 toxic counter on this card. Once per turn during your primary phase, you may engage this card and send it to Oblivion. If you do, engage target Clash card with an initial resource cost less than or equal to the number of toxic counters on this card. Okay, so that effect is really cool, and let me kind of explain that. Basically, when you trigger enter, it gets a toxic counter on it, and every turn you're able to, you can engage it to get another toxic counter on it. Eventually, you can engage it to destroy it and just rest something that has resource cost of X or less, where X is the number of toxic counters on this. So if you're able to get this out your first turn, you can basically just engage it to rest anything that your opponent has that can match your resource curve. So it's a really cool little card. I always kind of look at it as almost a last-ditch effort. Like you get it out turn 0, and you're just engaging it every turn to build these toxic counters up on it. And then you get to that late game state with your opponent where they maybe only have 1 thing that could block your death blow. Maybe it's a Lin or a Koggin or something like that. And you just engage Defiler's Vial and get rid of it because it's got 10 toxic counters on it at this point. You just rest their thing and swing for game. It seems like a really cool, fun little card, and now it actually has a really functional purpose. It only costs 1 resource. It has trigger, enter, put 1 toxic counter on this card, but then it also has the once per turn primary phase ability. So what that can look like is 1 resource to play the card out, and it gets a toxic counter on it, and then you engage it to put a second toxic counter on it, and then you use the new Pestilence ability to just move those 2 toxic counters over to a Clash card your opponent controls and force them to discard a card. That is nasty. That's what I call some Pestilence control. I am really excited for that. And they're probably going to just reprint Defiler's Vial and Infectious Presence in this new Clash kit. Like, I don't see why not. I'm excited to get some more cards that deal with toxic counters. Like maybe a Pestilence card that has 0 attack and 3 defense or something, and it gets +1 attack for every toxic counter on it or something like that. Something cool like that. I want to accrue them on a Clash card. And something I should highlight about the new Pestilence before I move on is that if we look down here, he has 0 defense, which means he is an attack contender. Presumably he's going to have 1 attack over here, which is very interesting. The original Pestilence was a 0 attack, 1 defense contender who played into a bit more of a defensive strategy. So that's another thing that just leads me to believe he probably has 25 health up here. So anyway, that's enough speculating with Pestilence. We're going to get on over to the other side of the Clash kit with War. Now, because of the way the Clash kit is shaped, I literally can't read his name. All I can see is this EER, so maybe like engineer or something. He's a red contender. He looks like also has 20 something health, I'm guessing 25. So we're gonna try to read through his abilities. Trigger attack. If this contender has a weapon attached with Javelin in its name, create 1/1/1 red Harbinger War Minion Clash token. Okay, that's really cool. So if you swing your contender and it has a Javelin attached to it, contender weapon Javelin, create a 1/1 War Minion token. I love it. That's a cool new way to generate these 1/1 red War Minion tokens. That's sick. And then the line below it says, once per turn, whenever you unattach a weapon from this contender, you may draw 1 card. Okay, cool. So yeah, the first ability is playing into the Javelin contender weapon, and the Javelin contender weapon is meant to be detached at some point when you throw it, so the contender is going to reward you for detaching the Javelin and throwing it by giving you a draw. Makes sense. It's thematic, it's flavorful, it plays into it. Alright, so let's actually check this Javelin out, because as far as I know, there's only 1 weapon in the game right now that has Javelin in its name, so this is the card that the War Contender is referring to. The card is Sniper Javelin. It is an accessory. It is a contender weapon, so it's a weapon that can only be attached to your contender. The bottom line says the card can only be attached to a war contender, so hey, we're putting it on this new war, baby. It is a 2-cost red weapon. Its attached cost is 1 red resource. Attached contender gets +1/+0. Okay, I love that. So you're swinging your contender at 2 attack already, just having this javelin on it. Attached contender gets trigger attack. You may unattach this weapon. If you do, deal 2 damage to target clash card. If that clash card has flight, deal 4 damage to it instead. Okay, that's pretty cool. It's very thematic. Like I said, it's war throwing this javelin and dealing damage to a clash card that's sitting on the field. And if it has flight, he's dealing even more damage because he's throwing it up there, you know what I mean? Very cool and flavorful. And one thing that I do need to address about this card is that at the moment, this card only exists in the set 3 Clash kit, right? It is a card that you only pull one of in the set 3 Clash kit in the back of it. So presumably at the moment, for anybody to have a playset of this card, they would have had to have bought 4 Clash kits, which is just, it's not practical. Nobody needs 4 Clash kits. You need 2 at most, because the Clash kit comes with some exclusive cards, and some of those cards, there's only 2 copies of them. So 2 is all you need. But the point that I'm making is they have to reprint this javelin in this new war Clash kit. Like, they have to. And they might even print another javelin, because the new war just says a weapon with javelin in its name. So we have the sniper javelin. Maybe we get something like an explosive javelin where you can deal 1 damage to multiple little targets or something like that. I don't know. Something like that would be pretty cool. Alright, so back over looking at the contender card, let's look at this low threshold health ability down here. So at 10 health, it says, at the start of your turn, if this contender has a weapon attached with javelin in its name, war minion clash tokens you control get +1/+1 until the end of the turn. Nice, that's 6. So your main ability is you're generating these 1/1 war minion tokens as you swing with your javelin, and once you get under 10 health, those war minions get buffed every turn that you have the javelin attached to your contender at the beginning of the turn. That's really cool. So it seems like this war contender is just completely playing into the javelin. We can even see it up here in the art. He's got it ready to throw it. I think it's really sick. It's a really cool archetype. You're going to attach the javelin to him. You're going to be swinging him at 2-0 and producing these war minion tokens and then using them to just take little pokes at your opponent. And when he gets low enough, they start getting stronger. Like, I really like that. So when I look at this new war contender, a couple things go through my mind, right? You want to use him in the javelin to generate these 1/1 war minion tokens, right? So I was looking through the Clash Grounds, and there's actually not a lot of Clash Grounds that affect Harbingers in, buffing attack or defense ways, at least. There's a lot of Clash Grounds that buff Alphas, Rogues, Alpha Hunters, etc., but not a lot for Harbingers. So here's a couple of the Clash Grounds that you could use to buff your Harbingers. Frontline reads, trigger enter, each player may ready a Clash card they control. Until the start of the next turn, the portal can't be activated. If the portal is closed, Harbinger Clash cards you control get +0 attack, +1 defense. So this is a little Clash Ground that you can drop to give your war minion tokens a buff on their defense if you would like to. But I think you really want to be a little bit more aggressive with them. So a Clash Ground that would synergize with these war minions really well is Warzone. And Warzone is just a really cool Clash Ground because it does something really specific that no other Clash Ground does. It makes your opponent waste their Clash Ground. Let me explain. So Warzone is a 3-cost red Clash Ground that reads, counterplay. You may only activate this effect when your opponent plays a Clash Ground. Send that Clash Ground to Oblivion. It does not enter play. Then send this Clash Ground to Oblivion. What that means is that you play this out, it sits on the field, and it says to your opponent, hey, when you play your next Clash Ground, instead of it replacing this one, it's going to get blown up as well. Like, Warzone will leave the field when you play your next Clash Ground, but your next Clash Ground will also enter Oblivion and not even enter play, so you won't even get any trigger enter effects. Then it says, at the end of each player's turn, that player may ready up to 1 Harbinger Clash card they control. So you can just stand one of your Harbingers, one of your War Minion tokens. And lastly, Harbinger Clash cards get +1 attack, +0 defense. So this can sit on the field, it can threaten your opponent that they have to waste their next Clash Ground just to get rid of it, and while it's out there, your War Minions become 2 attack, 1 defense. That's sweet. Now, a Clash card I have here that could interact with this new War archetype really well is War Strifebringer. War Strifebringer is a 4-cost red Clash card. It's 3/3, 3 attack, 3 defense, and it reads, trigger enter, you may activate the portal. Then create 2 1/1 red Harbinger War Minion Clash tokens. Then the line that's really significant, is trigger attack. If the portal is open, you may engage any number of Clash tokens you control. If you do, until the end of the turn, this card gets breakthrough and +1 attack, +0 defense for every Clash token you've engaged with this effect. So what does that look like? Basically, when you swing this guy, you can just engage any number of your war minion tokens to give him +1 to his attack. So basically, if your contender's just going to be passively generating these war minion tokens anyway, you might as well run Strifebringer, so every time you drop him and swing with him, you can just engage your war minion tokens as well to give him a buff and breakthrough. So the last card that I think could synergize with this new war deck really well is one that I'm surprised most people aren't as familiar with as they should be. I know it just came out in this new set, but this is a nutty card. This is one of my favorite cards in this game. It's called Crimson Scales. It is a 3-cost red accessory. It is exclusive, so you can only have one on the field at a time. And thank goodness, because I would terrorize with this card if I could have more than one on the field at a time. So it reads, once per turn, during your primary phase, you may engage this card. If you do, deal 1 damage to target Clash card. If that Clash card is defeated by this effect, choose 1. And then it gives 3 options. Deal 2 damage to target Clash card, deal 1 damage to target contender, or draw 1 card. So this card's going to synergize with this new war contender insanely, because let me loop around to something I said earlier. The trigger attack about detaching the javelin is a you may, which means you can just continuously attack with your contender to create war minion tokens infinitely, right? So your contender plus javelin is an infinite war minion generator. Now Crimson Scales can destroy one of those war minions as long as their defense isn't buffed. So basically every turn can look like this. You can swing your contender with the javelin attached. The javelin's giving it +1 attack, so your contender is coming in for 2 attack, 0 defense, right? By nature of you swinging with the javelin attached, you're creating the 1/1 war minion token. And if your opponent has nothing on the field, you can just swing your 1/1 war minion token, push that 1 damage, get that 1 extra damage through, right? But let's say your opponent has something on the field that they could block with, and so you can't swing that 1/1 war minion token. It's just going to sit there, and maybe they're going to blow it up next turn. It's useless, right? If you have Crimson Scales out, you engage Crimson Scales, you push that 1 damage on the war minion token, you pop it, and then you get to choose one of those next 3 lines. You can push that 1 damage on your opponent's contender, so even if you couldn't swing the war minion to get that damage through, you pop your war minion, and then you can push that damage through, and that damage is getting through unless they have some sort of prevention effect. Or let's say you wanted to swing your war minion token, but like I said, they had something they were going to block with. But the thing they were going to block with has 2 defense, and you can't get through that with your war minion. Well, with Crimson Scales, you can engage it, pop your war minion, and then choose the first option to just deal 2 damage to target Clash card, take their Clash card out. So basically the new war contender with the javelin can just infinitely generate these 1/1 war minion tokens, and then you can use Crimson Scales to just get infinite draws, push infinite damage on your opponent's contender, or push infinite little hits of 2 damage at your opponent's Clash cards. It's just a super cool little engine. So let's get back over to this announcement sheet. We are targeting the next American Clash Ground weekend for early October. Announcement coming soon. This will allow players and attendees to see Genesis Returns in person for the first time, getting their hands on it a full month early. Much like Clash Grounds Las Vegas, this weekend will include a pre-release event tournament before the big constructed tournament. And then we have the art for the Genesis Returns pre-release kit down here, which looks so sick. I wonder if this is going to be Genesis's contender art. You know, might be. And now I'm very excited about the announcement of the date because they had announced there's going to be a large Awakening event happening at Plunder Games in late September, and it's going to be a busy time of year for me, and I wasn't going to be able to make that. However, early October is going to be available for me. So I'm going to do almost everything in my power to make it out to this event. I hope to see you guys there. So scrolling down from the pre-release kit, we have the last super cool nugget of this announcement. Rising Empire Studios cannot wait for everything coming on the horizon, and we can't wait to share it all with you. Oh, and we can't leave you without seeing at least a card from this set. This new 2-sided contender is coming in Genesis Returns. Oh my god, oh dude, this is so cool. 2-sided contender, and it's Shadowlight. That's perfect. I've always thought Shadowlight was cool from the first set. The aesthetic, how he's made of pure light but made of pure shadow, like this is so cool. And as we can see, it's 2 different contenders. They both have 25 health, but Shadowlight Bright Beacon over here is 1 attack, 0 defense, and ShareAlike Dark Absence over here is 0 attack, 1 defense. So they're attack and defense contenders respectively, and we can't tell what their effects are, but we can see that the text boxes are different sizes and different shapes. So presumably they have 2 different effects. The implication of it being a double-sided contender is that there's going to be some point in the game where you can transform from one into the other. I'm presuming they're not just completely different contenders where you start the game with one and then that's just it. That would be kind of boring. I'm hoping there's going to be some sort of transformation that's involved either in the hero ability or some sort of card that goes along with the contender. But man, this is just so cool. There's about 6 or so ShareAlike Clash cards that exist right now, and with this new contender announcement in the new set, surely we're getting some more. So yeah guys, that's the announcement. I am just so hyped. There's so much good news here. We got new Pestilence and new War in the Clash kit. Both of them are super exciting. We got a new main character coming in Genesis, and I'm presuming we're getting a new Clarity in this set, and we're getting our first double-sided contender and our first ShareAlike contender, which is just, it's sick. It's hands down sick, no matter what you say. Even if ShareAlike was a single-sided contender, I would be excited for it because it's cool. Alright y'all, thanks for joining again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I got more TCG content coming down the pipe, as always. Follow me on Twitter, Low IQ Wokester, for some more brain rot. Shout out to Team Tavern Brawlers. Shout out to the boys. Thanks for joining me, y'all. Have a great week.